Well, hello there. This is Zoe Routh. I'm your friendly neighborhood Canadian-Australian leadership expert. I am an intrepid explorer of the leadership landscape. I'm kind of like a team navigator. I work with teams and team leaders to move from frustrated and stuck in endless conversations going nowhere, you know the kinds, to high energy, fast flowing, high performers. Sounds like fun to me, right? It's the work I love to do. And the other work I love to do is this podcast. And today is a special episode. Today is a solo-sode, and we are wrapping up hybrid team success. And there are 5 key principles I'd like to extract from all the interviews and reflection that we've done over the last 12 or so weeks to share with you these 5 key principles around hybrid team success. So that is our topic for today. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast, where we share all things people stuff in leadership. Learn from leaders who have done the hard yards and learn from experience. Hear from expert authors about the latest insights from culture to strategy and messy people dynamics. Get tips and insights from multiple award-winning author and leadership expert herself, Zoe Routh. Now, on with the show.
So in personal news, I thought I'd kick off a little bit of a solo-sode to get you up to speed on what is going on in the universe of Zoe Routh. Well, I can tell you I'm very excited to announce that with my novel, The Olympus Project, my first novel, we have the book cover design confirmed and finished. And that was released by my newsletter this week. Was it this week? I think it was this week. You can check it out. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, just go to my website, zoerouth.com, click on blog, and you can sign up there. In any case, we'll be starting to spread the word about the novel with pre-orders in probably kicking off in June sometime. So that's exciting. So once you get the book cover back, it becomes more real. And I'm currently plowing through the 3rd round of edits, and we'll get the manuscript off to the copywriter, the copy editor, not the copywriter, the copy editor by the 11th of May. So that's coming up soon. I think by the time you read this, they will already, or listen to this, they will already have it and will be trawling through looking for typos and that kind of stuff. So it'll be then to the typesetter, then to the proofreader, and then into production. So it is a process. I have also engaged a crew to develop the audiobook. No, I will not be narrating it. It's a completely different set of skills to podcasting or to reading your own nonfiction work. So this will be professionally narrated with actors, essentially. So I can't wait to bring that live to you. That'll be ready probably towards the end of July, the audiobook version of the book. And next week, I'm going to do a special edition of the podcast and share with you the first chapter. And I will read that myself. So that's what's coming up there in the novel news. Running, I have been training well without injury, yay, for my next half marathon, which is happening on May 22nd. So far, so good. And this is a great lead up to the big walk, the big Larapinta walk I've been trying to do for the last couple of years, but you know what? That COVID thing got in the way. So that is scheduled for me to take part on from June 10th to 26th. So 16 days in the desert, 232 kilometers. Can't wait. So that's all coming up. And in the news of other big walks I have signed up for is the Men's Link fundraiser walk, where we're going to walk the Centenary Trail in November. So I will have a support me page at some point up for the charity Men's Link, which supports youth at risk young men to helping them be pro-social young men. So it offers free counseling and mentoring services to young men in the ACT region, which is a fantastic charity. I've supported them for years. So I'm aiming to raise $10,000 or more for that particular charity and be walking the full length of Centenary Trail over 5 days. That's 142 kilometers. Okay, so that's all my personal news. Other news for you is we have the complete hybrid team success checklist up on the blog. So if you go to zoerouth.com and click on blog, you can capture all the key useful insights from what we've gleaned over the course of this quarter around hybrid team success. So that's a nice resource there for you. And we have a special event on the 19th of May, a virtual one called Power Games. It is an Amplifiers taster session that you can come along to for free online. And we'll be talking about power games amongst executive teams and how you can bust up the tension on your teams. And if you're in Canberra, we have the same event happening the following day live in person on the 20th of May from, is it 8 o'clock? I want to say 8 o'clock. 8 to 9:30, I think, is the timing. And you can find both those events to register on the website, zoerouth.com. Click on programs, click on events. There you go. Lots of stuff happening, lots of exciting stuff for you. So let's get into the content of today, which is talking about hybrid team success. When I went back through the list of people that we've interviewed and all the great insights that they shared, there was a couple of huge themes that came through. And a couple of standout interviews I want to highlight were the ones around trust. And there was Toby Travis, Sean McAuliffe, George Carceres, Marty Strong, former retired U.S. Navy SEALs, Bruno Prusek, and Tim Mousseau all spoke extensively on trust and safety in the workplace. So it is a big deal still for us, and probably a bigger deal now that we've got hybrid teams. So trust is definitely one of the big themes that's coming through. Overwhelm and dealing with mental health and anxiety is a continuing theme, not only from a pandemic point of view, but also from working in hybrid work arrangements can cause some of that too. And Dr. Sam Mather had lots to say around that, as did Danielle C., which was our last interview before this one. So lots of really great interviews across the quarter. So the themes, 5 themes. The first one is transparency. If we are looking at how do we actually run flexible workplaces, and all the research shows that people do want flexible working arrangements. In fact, there was an interesting survey that came out with the statistic that if organizations mandated a full-time return to the office, 65% of employees would say, see you later. So 6 or 7 out of 10 people that you employ would say, nah, I'm out of here. If you make me come back to the office full-time, I don't want that. I want flexibility. And another interesting statistic on the same report was that 52% of those people surveyed say they would take a pay cut in order to have flexible work arrangements, as in the option to work from home at least part of the time. So there is a strong demand. This is not consistently the story for every single employee, because we've also talked about for some younger people, that's not necessarily the case. They don't necessarily have their home set up in a way that supports great work from home situations, and many of them want to be back in the workplace for the social aspect of it. So it's not consistently across everybody, and yet 52% of people would take a pay cut if they were offered flexible work arrangements, or to ensure that they had flexible work arrangements. So hybrid working is not going away. It is here to stay. So to support that, transparency has got to be one of the critical aspects of making it all work better. And I've always been a proponent of making progress visible, and it's something I learned a couple of years ago from reading Dr. Jason Fox's book, The Game Changer. And he always talked about this is one way to gamify work, is making sure that you have something to people so that people can see that they're actually moving forward, that progress is being made. And that principle still holds true. Making process visible is a critical component if we are going to build lower distrust between team members and increase ability for people to make decisions. If they understand the processes in the team and those are clearly accessible, clearly visible, then it just takes a whole bunch of barriers out of the way. The other aspect of transparency is accountability. So if we have visible progress reports and the process is clear around that, and people can see what other people are doing and the interdependencies of their work, and the progress that is or is not being made, then that increases people's ability to check in with one another. They don't get surprised by delays, etc. So that takes a whole bunch of friction out of the system. So think about how you can add transparency to your hybrid team work or your work in general. Are there things that you can put on your intranet or through shared documents that people can see, track to see where things are up to? Can you make your measures visible across the board so people can see how the whole team is tracking? It's something I highly recommend to organizations that they incorporate. All right, so that's principle number 1, transparency. Principle number 2 is trust. This was the biggest one. There's lots of different kinds of trust. There are different ways to address trust, and developing psychological safety in teams is a critical element of that. And it is much harder with remote teams, or teams that are sometimes remote and sometimes in person, or a blend of the two. And the key takeaway for me across this quarter has been George Carceres' work in his book, Build Better Teams, and in the interview that we had, where he said there is a code to developing better teams. And it starts with getting set. And that's all about building cognitive trust. That means making your processes visible, making the terms of engagement and agreements of how we're going to work together clear and understood and documented. It's getting super clear on the purpose of the team and its relationship to the overall organizational strategy. That's the get set process, the first step in the code. And the second step in the code is get safe. That's when you start to build intimacy, rapport, and understanding of one another as humans. I always thought you do that part first, and he said, no, that comes after you get set. So once you have a clear understanding of who's who at the zoo and who can do what in the zoo, then you can work on getting friendly with the other zoo members. And that's getting safe. The next part of his code is getting strong, where you build the capability of the team, and the fourth part is get success. So trust was a huge piece. So getting set and getting safe are probably the two things that you can focus on as a leader, and polish that up, and that will give you results instantaneously, possibly instantaneously, in the work that you do with your hybrid teams. So principle 1 was transparency, 2 was trust, 3 is empathy. So a lot of the conversation was, how are people feeling in this day and age, through this pandemic, through flexible work arrangements. And pretty much there's a lot of anxiety out there. There's a lot of overwhelm. There's a lot of overwork. And empathy is absolutely essential for a leader to understand and to dig into what's happening for each of their workers. So as we do so, we can get a sense of what their capability is, what they need in terms of support. It's really hard to do that at arm's length through a computer screen or over the phone. So it's easier when they are sitting beside you at a desk. You can lean over, you can express compassion, support them in a very easy, visceral way. You can pick up on the cues and clues more easily that way. And yet, in hybrid work arrangements, we don't have the luxury, the shortcut of proximity to be able to decipher what's going on for people. So empathy, you need to work on your empathy. You need to be asking questions, digging into how people are doing, what's going on for them, get them to rate how are they feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, a thumbs up or thumbs down rating. So you're always constantly checking in with people. Everybody responds to situations differently, and some people need more support than others. So customize your leadership empathy for each of your workers. So yeah, leaders, you got more work to do. Just what you needed, something else on your to-do list. And this one will serve you well, because if people know that you care about them, they will be more willing to put in energy and effort into the work because they know it's being returned in kind. Principle number 3, empathy. Principle number 4, technology. Not surprising, right? So when the pandemic first hit, there was a mad scramble to get technology set up. How do you work this Zoom thing? How do you work Microsoft Teams? Making sure that people had laptops so that they could work from wherever, making sure that it was safe, that things were protected. All of a sudden, this massive 10-year acceleration to working flexibly happened. And then we discovered all the side effects of doing it poorly. Zoom fatigue, for one, too much reliance on audio communication, because we thought, oh yeah, we can see each other, this will be great. What happens actually is that when we see ourselves on video, we are distracted by our own self-view. We keep bringing our attention back to check out how we look and how we're coming across, whether it's good or bad. I'm laughing because I caught myself doing that this morning on a podcast interview, because the platform that we use, it automatically adds your self-view and you can't get rid of it. So normally when I'm presenting, I take off self-view so that I can communicate better with whoever I'm communicating with. In any case, it's a distraction. Likewise, the screen takes away a lot of the subtle micro cues that we get in person. It's a lot more difficult to get brain entrainment, to synchronize your breathing, to get into that group flow state. So the technology is definitely a barrier in a lot of ways in terms of building that deeper intimacy and deeper connection and promoting group flow in particular. So we can use it better. It doesn't mean that we need a huge platform of fancy apps and so on. And yet we can diversify how we use the technology. So not just doing auditory communication, like let's do a verbal report from everybody or asking questions. You can use collaborative technology like a Miro board, for example, so that you can get people to contribute anonymously in some cases, or at least quietly, so that people don't have to be brave to put up their hand to say something, because it's so awkward trying to break the silence on a Zoom call. It's like, who's going to talk next? And then you have that like, oh, no, you go. No, you go. And that adds friction into the team process. So technology, though it's helped us be flexible, when we actually use it in team process, can be a stumbling block. It actually puts these little micro frictions in there. So the best we can do is use it better. Have people turn off video cameras from time to time, use things like Miro for collaboration so that you have a diversity of ways that you are facilitating the conversations. And that comes me to the next principle, facilitation. I've said from the outset at the beginning of this year that facilitation skills as a leader is going to be one of the number one skills you need as a leader to bring your teams through flexible working arrangements. Because as I mentioned, the technology can be a blocker and create these micro frictions. We have to work harder as team leaders to build trust, to build engagement, to ensure that people feel safe to contribute, to create the space for them to contribute. So we actually have to think about how we are facilitating our team meetings and not just default to what we knew before when it was in person, which was have a meeting, have an agenda, anybody got ideas to contribute, which is really lazy leadership in team meetings, by the way. So we need to think about the activities that we're going to run people through. We need to make sure that there is space for reflection, space for small group conversation, each person at a time doing round robin contributions. So there needs to be a diversity of approaches. So if you don't feel confident about your facilitation strategies or abilities, we need to work on that. Absolutely. So those are the 5 key principles that we need to take through to managing hybrid teams better. So they are transparency, trust, empathy, technology, and facilitation. So with empathy, flexible work is empathetic leadership. And with technology, we just need to use it better. And with facilitation, we need to work actively on connection. For transparency, we need to make process and progress visible. And with trust, we need to get set, get safe, get strong, and get success. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the wrap-up of this quarter. The next quarter, the theme is holacracy, and I'll be doing an introduction to that next week, along with a special reading of the first chapter of my novel, The Olympus Project. Woohoo! I look forward to hearing from you. Love your comments. Thank you for everybody who does write me little notes on any of the episodes. It's great if you could rate the podcast. I know it's quite tricky to do in Apple Podcasts, and I'm not even sure you can do it in Spotify. So if you do manage to dig around and get it done, thank you so much. If you share the episodes with other people so they can listen in and they can get the benefits of the insights, that's also wonderful. In any case, thank you for tuning in each and every week to listen to what I have to say, other people have to say, and most importantly, committing to your own leadership development. I really believe better leaders, better world. And if you're listening to this, I know that's you. So good on you. Let's celebrate you. Thanks so much. In the meantime, live well, lead well.
You've been listening to the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast with leadership expert Zoe Routh. For more about people stuff and to contact Zoe, go to zoerouth.com.